Hey YouTube, Longboys Post 1975. Ran into a couple of mates again yesterday. It's summer. I seem to be bumping into people I went to school with left, right and centre. I say summer. If you could see the shit outside my window right now, you'd say, that's not summer. Anyway, I'm waffling off the bat. Yeah, I ran into some people I went to school with and we went for a coffee. We didn't go for coffee, I'm English, sorry. We went for tea, we don't drink coffee. And as it is with me, and I don't want to sound like a one-trick pony, but we were talking games again. And yeah, what was the game that made you fall in love with gaming? Or what was the game that made you basically realise you were a gamer? Now, I guess we need to define that term, and by that I mean, you know, you'd enjoyed gaming up to this point, you know, or you played games up to this point, but what was the first game that kind of made you, I was going to say obsessed, but that's a terrible term, but then I guess to somewhat it is the correct term. What was the game that made you realise you couldn't live without this, you couldn't walk away, I guess? My God, I'm describing addiction. Anyway, the reason it was interesting, and I thought I'd ask this, is because of all the three of us, we all had the same system, or the same first system when we were kids, which was the ZX Spectrum, and we all at some point had a Mega Drive. And for two of us, the system that made us fall in love with gaming, or made us realise we were gamers, was the Spectrum. But what was interesting about that was it was not the first game we played, which many people put down as the game that made them fall in love with gaming. And for the other guy, it was the Mega Drive, which was the third system he had, or the third system he had access to. And it was a game on that that made him realise that, you know, he loved gaming. He was a proper gamer. And I said to him, is that because it was sort of a better looking system, had better graphics or capabilities than the previous systems? He said no, it just happened to be the system that had a game on it. Kind of, you know, all the gears fell into place, the penny dropped, or, you know, whatever, and that was the system that made me realise I wanted to be a gamer. Now, I guess we need to define what differentiates you between being someone who, you know, casually gamed or played games and really enjoyed them, and someone who was a proper gamer, in the sense that you couldn't live without it. I guess that's the term right there, isn't it? You couldn't live without it. For me, it was when this game came out that I will talk about, I went from being someone who could take it or leave it and walk away from playing the games on this system, on the Spectrum, to someone who I had to cram in more of this game. You know, I'd get up on a Saturday and for the first time, instead of going and watching kids' cartoons or have breakfast, I'd cram in a little bit of time on this game. Or on a school day, when I came home from school, instead of sort of addressing my homework, although I did do my homework, else, you know, I wouldn't be here, and sort of watching afternoon TV, I'd go and play this game. And that game for me was Daley Thompson's Decathalon on the ZX Spectrum. Now, Daley Thompson was an athlete in the 80s, and 1984 he won gold in the Olympics. But this was the first game that made me properly become sort of, I had to beat this game. I had to beat all aspects of this game. You know, it wasn't just good enough to sort of be good at one or two of the aspects and walk away. And I guess the reason it was the game that made me completely and utterly head over heels fall in love with gaming was it was different in the sense that instead of having sort of one generic level where you had to beat a high score, it was a game that offered you the chance to learn a skill set. You know, it was your standard sort of athlete's game where you had to hammer the keys for left or right, or whatever, you know, to build up your stamina. Then you had an action key, which sounds very limited, but in this it was you had to do sprint, hurdles, shot put, discus, you know, long jump. There was a whole different number of skill sets to learn in order for you to basically say that you could complete this game, and that was unique at the time, you know. And it's funny because it was basically a rip-off of track and field, or a rip-off of Hypersports, and the irony here was Hypersports was eventually licensed by Ocean's sister company, Imagine. But yeah, it was, I don't know, it opened my eyes to sort of a wider world in gaming, in the sense that gone were the simple days. You know, and in came a new era of something involving a little bit more skill. Of course, by today's standards, it's very basic. But if I had to say a game that basically made me sort of wake up and fall in love with gaming, it was Daley Thompson's Decathalon by Ocean on the Spectrum. So, what was the game that made you realise you were a gamer? What was the game that made you completely fall in love with gaming? I'll see you later.